Hello everyone, welcome to the tutorial on clippers. Clipper circuit or simply a clipper is a network which makes use of a diode or diodes to clip a portion of the waveform. So clipping basically means you take away a portion of the input waveform. And one of the simplest example that we have for a clipper is the half wave rectifier circuit. And we have seen there what happens. Say you have, this is the input waveform, a sinusoidal input waveform Vi with a peak amplitude Vm. So if this is the input waveform, the output waveform that we got was this. Again, it depends on the orientation of the diode. So here what we obtained was, we have clipped this portion of the waveform. So input waveform negative half cycle was clipped off, and that is why at the output side we got it as 0 from T/2 to T. So this is one of the simplest example. So in a clipper circuit we are basically clipping off a portion of the input waveform that we get. We are not going to distort anything else, just clipping off a portion of the input signal. Now there are different types of clippers based on the orientation of the diode. That is, we can have a positive clipper or a negative clipper. Based on the configuration, we can have series clipper or parallel clipper. As I said, based on the orientation of the diodes, basically means is that if you see here, this clipper that we have here is a negative clipper. Negative clipper because we have clipped off the negative half cycle of the input signal. So this is a negative clipper. If we were to get an output waveform something like this from T/2 to T, I could say this is a positive clipper because I have clipped off this much portion of the waveform from 0 to T/2. So this is how it is. And when it comes to series clipper or parallel clipper, it is dependent upon how your diode is connected. So in a series clipper, if you see, you have the input signal that you have given. So this input is in series with the diode, or I can say this diode is in series with the output. So this is called as a series clipper. Whereas in a parallel clipper, you will have the diode. Again, the orientation of the diode is dependent on how you want to clip. So in a parallel clipper, you can have the output waveform or the input waveform in parallel with the diode. So based on the orientation of the diodes, you can classify them as positive clipper or a negative clipper. Based on the configuration that you use, you can classify them as series clipper and parallel clipper. Now these classifications are not unique. What I mean by that is that a series clipper can also be a positive clipper or a negative clipper. Similarly, a parallel clipper can also be a positive clipper or a negative clipper. So let us look at some of the examples that we have. One example is already seen, that is in the half wave rectifier circuit. Let us look at other examples. Moreover, one important thing to be noted in clippers is that we can have any type of input waveform. It could be a square wave, it could be a triangular waveform, it could be a sinusoidal waveform, and so on. So any type of input waveform can be used, and any type of waveform can be clipped off to obtain a positive clipper or a negative clipper. And not only that, you can clip at any desired level by making use of the DC power supply. So in the upcoming tutorials, let us look at some of the examples.